call this part of Canada the Maritimes. Do they call that there in England, the Maritimes? We're live now. Do they call it the Maritimes? Or is that...
Never heard of that. No. What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think it has something. I thought it had something to do with the ocean, but I'm not really sure. What I am sure is that we're live.
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, this part of Canada I live in is called the Maritimes, and in the Maritimes we have this saying that says, "It's good times in the Maritimes." Anyway, that was my story. All right, that was our behind the scenes conversation carrying over live here. Today, Semen Retention Nation, we're talking all about breath work. You're breathing. Check in. I'm alive. I'm breathing. But do you know that for thousands and thousands of years, yogis,
people been breathing.
Mystics, since as far back as we know, people been breathing. For thousands and thousands of years, yogis and mystics and spiritualists, they've used their breath to achieve amazing human, almost superhuman states. I mean, there's a video that's very popular on the old internet that is of a yogi in the middle of the Himalayan mountains. I think they were like hiking or something, and they run into some yogi that's way up there in the middle of the snow, and he's just sitting there meditating. I think he was actually meditating on and using the mantra Jai Shri Ram. But we know of yogis who do amazing things. We know of yogis who can go into the mountains in their little loincloth and meditate for days and hours. The mountain yogi of he is a Buddhist yogi. He's a really interesting guy. You can look him up on YouTube as well. The mountain yogi. He's been known to meditate. They say years. I mean, I truly believe these things are possible without taking any food. And, he controls his breath and does mantras. There is a yogi and several yogis, and we also do this inside the Semen Retention Army and Sexual Alchemy program, who can heat themselves and heat their body so much to the point where they can come out of the lake with wet clothes and dry themselves, so much to the point where they can literally start to sweat simply by controlling their breath. And there's all kinds of stories like this. And we know from personal experience, we have a tremendous breath work session called transformational breath work, which General Drake, during his general's report, will give us a little bit of how that particular exercise is playing out in this week inside of our support groups. But we have experienced from ourselves, like, almost out-of-body experiences, tingling all over the body, being able to hold. I held my breath close to 5 minutes after a transformational breathwork session one time. Just tremendous amounts of energy and capacity, transformations, self-realizations, intuitions, so much power. And it's so basic, it's breathing. But because it's so basic, we often overlook it. So this week, it's all about the breath work. We're going to be sharing 3 different types of breathing. We're going to be getting into the correlation between your breath and your ejaculation, how it helps us men practice semen retention. And we're going to also give you a breath technique that you can use right away so you can last as long as you want. Make sure you change your state so you stay away from the fapping and you get to the good part of life. I was trying to think of something that rhymes with fapping. You get to what's happening. There we go. You get to what's happening. All right, we'll get into it.
Soldiers retain. Real strong men are self-control. Their info is plain. If you don't know, feel that energy flow right into your brain. Your whole game will change. Soldiers retain. Soldiers retain. Soldiers retain. Real strong men are self-control. Their info is plain. If you don't know, feel that energy flow right into your brain. Your whole game will change. Soldiers retain. Soldiers retain.
Retention Nation, we salute you. Of course, welcome to our channel. Welcome to our live broadcast. We decided to shift the live broadcast up half hour because right before this, we have our Powerhouse Man leadership training group coaching calls. So this is where we're working with men who are becoming leaders in many different ways. They already are leaders, but they're working on their leadership skills. So we've got a bunch of other coaches in there, speakers. So if you run a business, if you want to explode your business, explode your income, you want to explode your movement, you've got a message you want to bring out to the world, and you consider yourself a conscious leader, then reach out to me and connect. In fact, you can go and book a free call with me. And in that call, we'll discuss the program. We'll figure out where your goals are at. And I'll show you the 4 pillars that we use to absolutely unleash your masculinity and your masculine leadership. I've got some guys that I'm working with in that program simply because they want to be better leaders for their families, better husbands, better fathers, better lovers, better businessmen, better communicators, influencers. So leadership is the secret to all of that. Income doesn't just mean money. Of course, we're talking money. Yes, get a big bank account, but income means the feminine supportive energy, an incoming of support, opportunities, doors opening for you where doors are closing for others. All of that's available through our Powerhouse Man Leadership Development Program. So we've decided to push the call back because we're giving guys more time in those calls every single week, just because there's a lot of good stuff happening in there. And you can be part of it. But the way to get part of it is you got to book a call. There's a short application that you fill out. That way I can get a gauge on who you are, what you're looking for, where you're at. And then on the call, we'll get to know each other, see if we click. I'll take you through the program. If it makes sense for you and we both decide that you're a good fit, then you'll move forward and get started in the program. All right, let's get into this week's General's Report and figure out what's happening in our Semen Retention Army. General Jake, give us the update. What's going down inside of the battalions?
So it's been a great start to the year this week where we have a challenge every Monday, and the challenge is to do at least one transformational breathwork session, which you just spoke about. And I actually did one on Saturday and one today. My goal is that my sexual alchemy practices are times 100 at the moment. So I'm doing them even more than I was and going back through the program. And this is in week 2 because it really helps to clear out your energy so you can bring so much new energy in and transmute it. And it's such a unique practice to this program, and it's like you said, you held your breath for nearly 5 minutes. I've also held my breath for so long, and the first time I did it, I was amazed. Actually, I had like kind of an out-of-body experience, as you mentioned there. I was doing this breathing and then going along with the guided video that you have inside the program, and then at one point you say, after a lot of this breathing, you say, okay, now hold your breath and hold your energy in. And I was just lying there and I just didn't need to breathe. And before this, I've only held my breath for like 10 seconds in my life, I think. Like my dad used to swim and hold his breath for 1 minute. And I was like, how is he doing this? I was just like, after 10 seconds, like, I'm going to drown. And I was just lying there. And I had this clear understanding that I was like greater than my environment, like I'm the consciousness above all this. My body needs to breathe, but I don't need to breathe. I was just like lying there and I just felt like it was like out of body. And I was just like, I don't even need to breathe. And then, I don't know, I had so much energy in my body that it didn't need to breathe. I don't know how long it was because it was the first time I did it. It took me by surprise. I had to look back over your video and time it. And it's like, oh, okay, it was 2 minutes. But it felt like it was like 5 or 10 minutes. I was just lying there going, maybe I'll never breathe, man. Maybe I just don't need to breathe. Like, I'll just never breathe again. But I'll just keep living. So yeah, it's incredible. Changes. It's like a whole energy reset, changes your body from like acid to alkaline, doesn't it, as well? And just, you can release so much old energy and make way for new and bring powerful new intentions in. So that's insane. So we're doing that this week.
Yeah, it's an incredible practice. It's definitely my favorite out of all the practices inside of the program. I mean, I got a ton of my favorite practices, but the reason I love that one so much is because it's intense. It's like a very
Mm,
intense practice. And I find that anytime we bring our body to these very intense states, we start to have these spiritual, by just natural offshoot, we have spiritual experiences because we face our own limitations, and we recognize
yeah,
that our limitations only live in the body and in the mind. So when we do something that expands the capacity of the body and mind, we kind of simultaneously, it's kind of strange to describe, have a simultaneously spiritual experience that we
mm,
somehow inherently recognize I am not this body.
yeah,
Any limitation I'm really facing, or I'm facing it not out here in the world. It's not
mm,
like, oh, I need to make more money in my life. Yeah, so, and you think it's an out there problem, but it's actually a limitation that you hold in your body. Oh, I really need to be
mm,
able to connect with my wife, or how do I lead my family through this recession? How do I lead my family through these transition times of this world? It's not a out there problem. It's an in
mm,
here problem. It's in your body. Once you recognize that all limitations are stored in the body, then you
mm,
recognize all limitations can be relieved by controlling the body. And eventually, the idea, if you're really on the spiritual path, is transcendence, which is transcending the body. And I really find that you get a direct experience of that through transformational breath work. It's why I love it so much.
yeah. It's super intense, man. And so we're recommending every guy in the program do it at least once this week. I was doing it once a week for a while, and then definitely every 2 weeks. Like it's just like an important thing to keep up, I think, because of the way it resets you. And yeah, so that's the challenge this week, and it's going good. Well, I just said it. Let's see who does it, because it's quite an intense one. It's sometimes it's that's the one I used to avoid a bit, like resist, because it's like, oh, it's gonna be an intense experience. But then when you do it, you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did that one. Um, so yeah, so that's the challenge this week, and we'd like to shout out one of our soldiers as we do every week, and this time we're shouting out Morali, and he came into the program recently. He's also in the Powerhouse Man Leadership one as well, and he came in and he just got so much more confidence since coming in, and now he's setting up his business, which is also coaching and helping men, and he's got like a men's group, and we've just seen such a change in him already since coming in, and yeah, he's just doing so well. So we really wanted to shout him out, and for the he's just taking action. You can see the changes in him, and he's taking action, and then expanding it further, helping other men. That's what we love to see. That's what we're here for, to build that. So we'd shout him out.
It's incredible. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Morelli is yeah, he's definitely like just come into a whole different level of confidence. And he's like, again, he's part of the leadership development program. So as part of that, you get the sexual alchemy training, access to the Semen Retention Battalion, as well as all the leadership videos and training. There's just a ton of content there, coaching, support, the private Slack group, all that stuff. And so he's taking advantage of the whole gamut of offerings that we have. And just within 3 months, it hasn't even been 3 months that we've been working with Morali. His confidence has gone from like here to like up there, like just skyrocket. It's so much to the point where he's now launched out his own coaching program and his own business, which is what his intention was to come into the program. And so I'm really stoked for him. I'm so happy for him. And if you just to re-edify, if you're, connecting with this and you're looking at this and you're thinking, I want to do something, I'm ready to launch my own coaching business or training business, or I want to be supporting men in the way that you guys are, then come work with us. Book a call with me. We'll jump on a call. I'll take you through the program, how we lay it out. It's step by step. You get everything that you absolutely need to go from zero to hero within 4 months. I mean, within 4 months, you'd be from someone who's like idea phase of a business to confidence, identified as being successful in that business, having all the energy because of the transmutation practice, and all the strategies. So it's not just mindset energy work and then you go somewhere else for strategy, or like other coaches is like they'll give you the strategy but not the mindset work. And almost, I don't know if any other leadership development program in the world right now, and I'm talking some of the best leadership development trainers in the world, Darren Hardy, editor of Success Magazine, he's got his leadership development program. You got John Maxwell, the #1 leadership development training program, a trainer in the world. Well, I'm sorry, but we coming for you, John Maxwell, because we bring in something that nobody is bringing to the table right now, which is the alchemization of your sexual energy and combining it with leadership development.
Yeah.
The table here and for morality success. Awesome, man. Anything else going down in the general's report?
I just want to say in the program, you also get support from your brothers, you know, so we'll be people building their business and we share every week our wins and our challenges, and everyone in there is like celebrating with you and supporting. So, you know, it's only positive energy. You're trying to build your things, and everyone is supporting you and helping you out and making sure you stick to your plan. You don't have to do it all by yourself. It's like all in one thing, you know, the energy, the leadership advice, the support and yeah, camaraderie. So yeah, I'm really grateful to be part of it.
Yeah, man.
And we're going to show one of the techniques today.
Man.
Of course, we always show a technique. We won't show transformational breath work because that's the secret one. If you join, you have to see that one if you join, because it's top secret. But there's many simple ones you can apply right now as well.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the correlation between breathing and ejaculation. So, you know, guys connecting here, you want to be like, I want to practice semen retention. I want to get all the benefits of semen retention. Well, great. Recognize that when you're having sex, your breathing changes, right? So when you change, quality of breath equals quality of life. Long life, long breath. Long sex session, long breath. Short life, short breath. Short sex session. That's like kind of like a she sells by the
she sells
shore.
Sex sessions on the seashore.
No, don't hire her. We're not for that, okay? But she said you could probably get that at least by the Jersey Shore. I'm sure you can get that. Right? So, all right. So, short sex session equals short breath, or short breath equals short sex session. So you can imagine, like, think about when you get angry, what the breath does, right? Like short, kind of from the chest.
And then you can't control, the more you do that, you can't control yourself.
That's right. And the more you're just like, and then you kind of wild out, and then you say some things you don't mean, or you go hit a wall or hit somebody, and you do something you essentially regret. So you can think about it in the same way, because think about when you're having anxiety, right? And then your thoughts are running, and then, you know, and then you have a panic attack, right? Short breath. What happens with a short breath is that our sympathetic nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system becomes ignited, and your sympathetic nervous system governs your fight, flight, freeze response. So when you're in fear, essentially, and you're in survival mode, you have a short breath. And there's a lot going on. It's very taxing for the body because you're in survival mode. Now, unconsciously, many, many men are living in survival mode, And with all the caffeine and the alcohol and drugs, just you name it, the overdosing on social media stimulation and blah, 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 blah. What ends up happening is the nervous system is taxed. So it's constantly, in a state of needing to calm down. That's why so many guys feel like, I was talking to a friend, very sad, actually, in my opinion, but, her son, right, very young, 19, 20 years old, young, feels like they need to smoke dope to get through the day, So that's a problem. That's a problem. Because nobody needs to smoke dope to get through the day. As an ex-dope smoker who smoked dope for years, I understand that little voice, but it's bullshit. It's not true. Nobody needs it. In fact, it's doing you harm. Some guys feel like I need to jerk off. It's so funny how many men, who are uneducated about semen retention, who don't understand it. They're like, oh, it's stupid. It's natural, man. You have to do it. If I don't do it, oh man, you don't trust me. I'll just go punch a wall or blah, blah. And I get that. Yeah, you're angry, you're frustrated, because semen retention just brings out who you are. So if you're angry and you're frustrated and you do semen retention, guess what's going to happen? More anger, more frustration. So semen
but if you
retention
release it's like quelling who you are. It's like numbing who you are. So because you're scared of that coming at you because you don't know what to do with the energy. So it comes up and you're like, shit, I'm going to get angry. So I better let one go because then I'll calm down again. But what you're actually doing is stopping the good energy you could be using as well. And people don't realize that, they're just releasing stress, but because we don't know how to use stress positively, living in survival.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually just released a short today on that very topic about stress. On my Instagram and TikTok about like how well do you handle stress, and are you using stress in its proper way for to actually make you better, to make you to make you good, right? To make you stronger. Stress is a positive thing. Most men are running from stress, but anyways, let's go check out the short. The point is that. I love what you said about that, because most guys are using ejaculation and masturbation and pornography and even sex itself as a stress relief, as opposed to a way to cultivate energy. And when it comes to sex, to connect and to have intimacy, to, if you're not,
that as well.
You're losing that, because what you're doing is you're training yourself that sex is just something that you use to release energy, and it's not a way that you're gaining intimacy or being a servant in the bedroom, to be there to please your partner and to give her a wonderful experience and to have a loving exchange. If you're right. And so we're not talking about sex for creating babies, obviously, at this point, because obviously you'll need to ejaculate that. You know what I mean? That's very conscious thing that you should be doing as well. And even the mood in which you have sex to have a baby will affect that baby, right? Affect the type of soul that you're going to attract into the womb. Now we'll get into that maybe in a different episode. So they're understanding that when you're having sex, most men breathe from their chest. And then they end up ejaculating quickly, or they don't end up lasting as long, and they don't end up even experiencing the pleasure physically, neither emotionally, mentally, and definitely there's nothing there spiritually, because it's done. And statistically, we know that most men are lasting underneath 5 minutes this day and age after penetration. And one of the main reasons why is because of their overall lifestyle. Everything is quick and fast these days, right? Convenience food, convenience this, instant gratification. And so sex is being approached in the same way, And so
de-stress. And it's like a pathetic reward system, Oh, I'm going through some stress, I have a difficult time, so I'm just going to touch myself for a few minutes and give myself this bit of pleasure, like a reward for doing nothing. And then in doing that, you don't get the results later on, which could be in your life, could be intimacy with your partner, because now you're with your partner and you can't last long and give her any pleasure because you've just been focused on giving yourself this cheap, quick pleasure all the time. And so sex becomes about that, unfortunately, because you're not holding enough energy. You don't get any long-term results.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. It's a cop out. It's an escape, and it can be, there's so many other ways to deal with stress, breath work being one of them. Learning breath work techniques will help you relieve stress without ever having to touch yourself, without ever having to turn to drugs, pornography. And I put drugs and pornography all into the same category, you know?
Yeah, I mean, with porn, it's so external. Not who's really in touch with their body if they're watching porn, you know, in touch with their breath.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to do when you're watching porn. What you're really looking for is love and connection with someone when you're looking at porn. Deep down, you have to realize that. And, you know, there's no way you can really, even do this breath stuff watching porn. It's not like, you know, because it's just so external. It's nothing to do with what you're really looking for, which is love and connection.
That's right. And so when we learn to control our breath, both in and outside the bedroom, we then simultaneously learn to control our negative habits or our negative patterns or our stress responses. And specifically in the bedroom, when it comes to lasting as long as you want, when you learn and at the same time be conscious of your breath and practice a deep breathing. So instead of breathing from the chest, where your sympathetic nervous system, so your fear response, then ultimately sex is a fear response, a stress relief, right? It switches. Now the parasympathetic nervous system is active during sex. Now the parasympathetic nervous system is when you feel meditative, when you feel peaceful, when you feel loving, when there's natural connection and intimacy, and the greater intelligence is working through you. Now, when this nervous system is activated, this is where you can have spiritual openings and experiences, or at least very high levels of connection. And here, when this nervous system is active during sex, it shifts, first of all, how you show up as a lover. And when you show up as a lover, so present, ready, you're not in a rush. You're not trying to get anywhere. It's not about an orgasm. It's not about getting to a goal. It's about spending this time with your partner and spending this time in a loving exchange and deeply understanding and knowing each other in such an intimate way. It changes the whole atmosphere. In this way, women feel extremely safe in this type of sexual environment. Then they open up, because for a woman to fully open up to her, why so many women are complaining about feeling dissatisfied in the bedroom, and then they have to use all these different toys and all these different things that are going on, is because actually the sex itself isn't satisfying. And the sex itself isn't satisfying because for a woman to be fully satisfied, she has to feel fully safe to surrender to you, to open up to you. And she may do it out of duty, but if you want her to do it out of real openness and intimacy, then you have to warm her up in that way. Feminine energy is considered like water. So water takes a little bit longer to boil, but once it's boiling, it's hot. Then it stays boiling for a long time. And the masculine energy is compared to fire. Fire is quick to ignite, but once it's done, it's out, right? You're done, you ejaculate, you go to sleep, right? And her fire,
she's still boiling.
Yeah, she might still be boiling, or she might not even ever reach her boiling point, and you may be done. And so she's not interested in continuously wanting to have that experience. I had a girlfriend of mine, not my wife, but a friend of ours, say, to us, like, yeah, the sex isn't that great in their marriage and blah, blah, blah. But, she does it because, it's her duty. Right. And so she's very nice in that way, but she said to her partner one times, like, Well, how would you feel if, like, every time we had sex, you never orgasmed, or you just weren't, like, enjoying it? And that's tough for a man to hear, right? Because that's like hits the ego hard, but it's the reality of so many couples. And because nobody wants to talk about it, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. A lot of that starts to breed secret sex lives, whether it's affairs, whether it's webcam girls, whether it's pornography, or whether it's just reserving yourselves to living like roommates and having your once a year, birthday extravaganza for 5 minutes or whatever you get, right? It's not a real relationship. It's not passionate. There's no, I can't wait to just be together. Okay. And that whole, it's the honeymoon phase stuff, that's nonsense, because the honeymoon phase is mainly driven on lust. What we're talking about is a real intimacy that lasts long time. Myself and my wife, since we started practicing this type of sexuality in our relationship, not only have we noticed that that we increasingly have more sex because we enjoy each other in that way, but what's interesting is the quality of sex has changed. We last for hours. But what's also interesting, and probably the most beautiful thing out of the whole experience, is our relationship outside the bedroom is tremendous, because we're like friends and we have this intimacy and this connection that lasts. Because when you have really good intimate sex, then what ends up happening is there's a bond, because sexual energy is like glue. It sticks, right, to whatever it contacts. It expands whatever it contacts. So it expands. So when you have sex in a loving way, it expands your love. It expands your intimacy. It expands your friendship, your partnership. And you recognize that you become more in sync outside the bedroom. And so the whole thing becomes this wonderful dance and this play. And this is so important in this age where 50% of marriages are ending in divorce, and hookup culture and one night stands and all of this stuff is going on. And it's because what we're all searching for is intimacy and connection. And when you have it, you're not looking for all that anymore. It's because you're like, wow, that seems foolish.
Mhm.
But I get why people are looking for that, because they're not feeling connected.
Yeah.
So all of that coming from the breath, powerful stuff, is that the breath changes your ability to control your ejaculation. And when you can control your ejaculation, you can last long. When you can last long and have non-ejaculatory sex, the intimacy and the dynamic of that sex changes, but also you as a man then get to circulate that energy throughout your body and retain all of the subtle energy that comes with your sex energy. So what am I speaking of when I talk about subtle energy? Well, your motivation, your creative genius, your health. There's three potentials for sexual energy as on like, right? Is one is the propagation of having babies. The second is ultimate health and vitality, longevity of life. Third is transmuting or alchemizing that into purifying that into spiritual energy, where it goes from lust to love. And that's what our program does. It teaches you to progressively transmute or alchemize or purify the energy, where it's a raw lust, porn, masturbation, cheating, all of this, feeling sexually frustrated, always having sex dominate the mind and the thoughts, to a loving, healthy expression of sex. And then if you want to take it to that step, or when you're ready to take it to that step of, now I want to just be completely in my spiritual consciousness, you'll be that much closer to take that leap, to take that jump, for those who want to do that. So the benefits are both in and outside the bedroom. But here's the deal. If you cannot last long, if you're falling victim to your lust, then first of all, you become a man generally riddled with vices. And then that takes you into all of your negative patterns. That makes you feel frustrated, makes you feel disappointed. Fulfilled man is full and fulfilled. And when you continuously empty your sexual energy, you're emptying your genius, your motivation, your vitality, your longevity, your masculine prowess and charge, which makes you then attractive to feminine energy. And feminine energy isn't just women. Yes, many men have figured out by practicing semen retention, they become more attractive to women. Of course, because you're strong, you're stable, you're motivated, you're a provider, protector, you're a producer. But feminine energy is supportive energy. It's incoming, money, opportunity, social status. And at its highest form, you're attracting spiritual consciousness more and more towards you. And you're starting to spiritualize your life and your body. So learning to control your breath is important. And the way that we teach it is 3 different types of breathing techniques. And we teach all different types and different ways. And we're going to demonstrate something called deep abdominal breathing here in a few minutes. But to categorize them, to give you 3 kind of umbrella categories, we'll talk about 3 types of breathing. So breath can be used, 1, to cool the body. You need to learn cooling breathing techniques. That's the deep abdominal breathing, the testicle breathing, and synchronized breathing, so that you can cool the fire, cool the masculine, cool the energy as you get stimulated and you feel yourself, oh my gosh, I'm getting so excited that I'm about to blow, right? It's like, so by cooling that energy while, let's say, the fire is boiling, but you're cooling, you learn how to cool it, you can actually maintain a fire so that you can last as long as you want. So, your fire isn't getting out of control and then eventually spills out because it's so much energy, it has to go. Cooling energy also helps you cool the mind, which cools the amount of thoughts that you're having per day, saving you energy, making you more efficient, effective, and more open to inspired thoughts. Then we have the opposite of that, which is heating or warming breathing. So here we're using things like transformational breath work, tumo breath, energized breathing. These types of breathing are all about stoking the fire. So if you're feeling like, I need the opposite, I need to get my libido going, I need to develop my energy, I need to have that masculine prowess, then you need to stoke that fire. And those are being done to help raise your energy. Now, during sex, normally that fire is stoked. But if you're finding that you're not getting sexually aroused, you're finding low libido, maybe your testosterone's low, these warming breaths, these heating breaths, they're going to spike up your energy and stoke your fire so that you can unleash your masculinity. And the beauty is to know how to do them both, so that when you need more power, you go to the gym and you do some breath fire. It's right. And you start to stoke that energy and you fill yourself with tons and tons of fire energy. Then you just boom, boom, boom. And then you go and you push, and you'll watch the next thing you know, your workouts, you'll be able to push a little bit more. You'll be able to pump those last 2 sets in because you've got that energy flowing through you. So you'll be able to know when to use these and apply them into practical situations. You're about to go on a sales call. You're about to give a presentation. Now you want to stoke your masculine energy, get that sexual energy going through you so that you're vibrant, your charisma's on point, and you're unleashing that. And then the third type is balanced breathing. And these are to balance you. So like our alternative nostril breathing, the microcosmic orbit meditations where you're working with the water channel, which is the feminine channel on the front, or the back channel, which is the fire channel, and you're circulating that energy, you're balancing that throughout the body. As you do these 3 different types of breath, you'll be able to control your ejaculation, you'll be able to give up the negative habits, and you'll be able to recondition yourself for the positive, long, vibrant, healthy, and expansive life that you're actually designed to be as a man. You're become a powerhouse leader, and that's what we're training men to do.
I was laughing because I just wanted to say, if you want an example of this, just look at Nakula, like how energized and focused he is. He just talk about this stuff like for hours and just so energized. You know?
It's true. It's true. Like, this is why I have so much energy. You know, I'm very fiery already. So for me, actually, a lot of the cooling breaths is important. But I use all of these techniques, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. Because I'm like, this stuff just transformed my life. I was like, holy smokes! It really unleashed my masculinity and unleashed my ability to lead and to influence and to get things done. And it's improved all areas of my life. And that's why I'm just like, oh my God, we got to take this out to everybody and the world. Every man needs to know how to do this. And fine, if every man doesn't do it, at least our goal by the time I leave this planet is that 10% of men, you know, across the world are equipped with this, so that they can become strong leaders for their families, their communities, their nations. Because we need better quality leaders, man. We got leaders at war. We got leaders quarreling over the most stupid things, creating so much division in nations. I see it in my own nation. I see it in other nations. And I was like, the quality of leadership is just horrible. And it also men being able to actually control and mute their sexual energy. Let's do this technique, man.
Yeah.
One technique you can use right away. Go ahead.
So you can do it standing, but it's good to do sitting. If you're on a chair, sit on the edge of the chair, because it promotes good posture and it just nicely opens up your diaphragm and stuff. So I mean, you can explain as well while we breathe, but I just wanted to say it's interesting because when the way we naturally breathe should be, we breathe in, our diaphragm expands and our belly goes out. A lot of people don't even know that. I knew that from singing training. That's the first time I heard about it. I just thought you just breathe in and out. I didn't think about it. I thought you breathe into your chest, but actually your stomach should come out when you breathe in like a balloon, like filling up with air. And then when you breathe out, it contracts. So that's what we're going to do, is start to breathe and focus on the breath and try to breathe as slowly as possible. When I started doing this, I realized how shallow and quick my breath has been, and it still is. I'm practicing this more and more all the time, and I'm just starting it to become like natural that I breathe deeply and slowly, because I think for most of my life, I didn't even know about it. So this is what we're going to do here, is breathe in and expand the belly. And we're not going to do it for too long, so it's good to count as long as you can. I do like 5 seconds. When I breathe out, belly expands for 5 seconds. Then at the top of the breath, hold it for like 5 seconds. Then when you breathe in, the belly goes in 5 seconds. So you can do like that in cycles of 5 seconds. And just put your energy down there in your belly center. And what we want to do is actually imagine that balloon or that energy ball in your stomach is filling up all 4 sides. So it's pushing up with the diaphragm, pushing out the belly, down the perineum, and actually out the back. You can try and put your hands on the side of your hips to feel it pushing out. And you can put your hands on the lower back. It's harder to feel, but you want to feel that you're pushing out your energy in all 4 directions. And then when you breathe in, you want to feel that you're contracting it in almost like a snowball. And then when you get really good at it, you can even start to squeeze in those parts of your body, squeeze up the perineum and hold the energy, lock it in to your power center in the middle. But for now, this beginning technique is just learning how to get in touch with the breath and the energy and breathe in and out as slow as you can. And just relax that whole area. Especially, it's good to try and relax the perineum, because this is where the arousal, that if that's tense, then you're going to ejaculate quickly for sure. Yeah, and it should just get to a point where you naturally do this. It's kind of alien at the start because we're not used to focusing on it, but we want to kind of change our breathing. So even outside the bedroom, we walk around, we're just calm, breathing deeply and slowly, not in anxiety with the fast breathing, shallow breathing. So whatever happens in our life, we're calm and relaxed, yet we're stable and steady and powerful. Yeah. Anything else, Nakula? Just focusing on the breathing
great.
now.
Yeah, in the so as you guys are practicing this, so remember, you can imagine like a balloon in the middle of the stomach. So starting at the lower dantian. The lower dantian is just like you take your belly button and just take 2 fingers and go underneath the belly button, and it's just right in there, right? So you can imagine like string coming in the sides and in the center, and then right where those strings would cross, in the middle of your stomach, in the middle of your being, just a couple inches or an inch down from the belly button, is the dantian. This is the solar plex chakra, and if you can't feel it, over time you'll actually be able to feel it. You know, the chakra real, right? Oh, namaste. So much for joining in. And by the way, guys, leave some comments, say what's up. It really helps us on the algorithm. Make sure you like and all that kind of good stuff. Subscribe. Really helps us grow our channel, helps us get this mission out there to more men. So when you're if people ask me, oh, the chakra is real, and I used to like wonder too. I'm like, oh, is it wonder? Until I started feeling them. And then I'm like, oh, they're real.
Yeah.
Because you can feel them and you can work with it and you can actually move your awareness. You'll notice anywhere you move your awareness, when you get really good at this, you'll notice that there's like tingling sensations. You can feel into your body very well. So when you practice enough, you'll feel that dantian. So what you could do is, for now though, to help you get into the feeling of it, you can imagine that there's a ball right at the center there. And then when you breathe into it, so the breath flows downwards into the belly and the belly expands. Right? So the belly expands, that balloon is expanding, and it's expanding 360 degrees, right? So it's expanding. So if I, the stomach, if I take my sweater off here, just to give you like a better example, right? It's like, then my stomach is going to expand too. My sides will expand and my back will expand. And actually my upper diaphragm and my pelvic floor muscles will expand. So it's like 360 degree expansion. Full breath. And then when I exhale, the balloon will contract. Like, imagine a balloon. It's just going to lose everything, and it's going to come back in to the center. And then I'll breathe in again, inflating it. So you can even go stomach and back, sides, and top and bottom, diaphragm and pelvic floor muscles. Now you've got deep abdominal breathing. All right. So that's that practice. Now in the program, our Become a Sexual Alchemist program, we guide you through it. We have guided meditations and practices that you can do to get really good at it, as Jake was guiding us there. Right. And then we eventually, there's a bunch of other practices that you can do. This is the initial practice to start getting good at that. And ultimately, all throughout the day, by doing deep belly breathing, you'll just recognize that you'll feel much more meditative, much more calm. You'll be sharper of mind. Time itself will seem to slow down for you. You might go from a person that feels anxious and like you're have no time to all of a sudden feeling like, no, I've got time. Actually, all I have is time. And
it's funny, the more relaxed you are, the more time you have, the less you rush. Suddenly you have time to do stuff.
So there's that saying, like, if you don't have time, meditate for 15 minutes. If you have time, meditate for 15 minutes. If you don't have time, you need to meditate for an hour. Right? Because time is largely experienced differently depending on your state of mind. Anybody knows, like, if you're in the flow, you're doing something, time just goes by. It's like, 2 hours later, you're like, holy smokes, where did that? Oh, cool. That's in the flow. You get into a timeless state. You're not like in time anymore. But most people are so aware of time because they're actually in a fearful state. So they're like, okay, time. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. That's a very deep unconscious belief that's actually surfaces up when people are like, I don't have time. I don't have time. All you have is time. The question is, how are you choosing to invest the time that you've been given? Time is a gift. It's a feature of life. It's a dimension of life which is gifted to you. And so if you're wasting it, that's why every second of your day counts. Every second. When you treat every second as if it was $1 million, think about how you would treat $1 million. It's not even worth $1 million, because if today was their last day on earth, every second would count to you. Well, when you realize that every day you never get it back. Every moment you invest it's never coming back. No amount of money brings time back. You recognize that time is the most precious thing you have. And therefore, how you utilize it is going to determine the type of life you live and who you become in this world. So don't be wasting time. So this is an interesting question here. Should I incorporate these practices while practicing the art of BDSM or the in rough sex?
It's an interesting question. I mean, sorry, just first for the BDSM stuff is specific, but even just for people who, like you said, rough, like a lot of people's idea of sex is like, let's tear our clothes off and let's go, we're going out. It's like how to start calm and when it's like that, or of course even parts of the session might become more animalistic, more people like that too. So I mean, it's like, like it's really interesting because a lot of these things are being promoted, right? BDSM and all this type of stuff. And I neither judge it, or it's like, okay, that's the type of sex you're having. Practice deep belly breathing with it then, right? Because actually when you practice deep belly breathing, first of all, you'll notice that the quality of the sex will change even in the fantasy sex world, right? We'll say like, you're playing out a fantasy role playing, you're tying each other up. All right, fine. But when you slow it down, here I am. I'm holding my imaginary whip, right? Because I'm trying to get into like a space of BDSM, right? So, right. And I'm like, okay, slow it down. Be very present. Be very conscious about what you're doing.
and the pleasure that you're giving or that you're deriving from that experience, and see if you can become aware of your own awareness in that experience. Like, don't just be like unconscious in the experience. So conscious of it. And when you're very conscious of it, it naturally begins to shift the quality. You may even go from rough sex to maybe even changing the dynamic by doing this practice. I don't know, experiment and see what happens, right? But just get into a space of consciousness while you're doing it. And definitely by doing these deep belly breathings and using the different breathing techniques that we teach, you'll be able to expand the consciousness while you're practicing whatever type of sexual outlet that you may be practicing. So I would definitely recommend it if this is what you're doing. And it would be interesting that, you know, as you practiced it, I would love to hear you on what your experience of putting, you know, the sexual alchemy flavor into your type of sexual expression, or while doing this type of sexual expressions is. It just reminded me of the song of what is it, Rihanna?
Yeah,
she gets excited by whips and chains, apparently.
Yeah. Oh yeah, chains and whips, exactly. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
just promoting that kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah. So listen, you know, it's a judgment-free zone. BDSM actually is one of the most growing popular types of sexual activity. And so just let's at least instill some consciousness in it. And what I'm saying is some real self-control, because you know, there's a part of us that all desires, you know, one of the most popular types of sexual activity amongst very, very powerful men is hiring a dominatrix to be dominated. Because very powerful people, or people in powerful positions, think of big CEOs and companies they're responsible for millions and hundreds of millions and sometimes billions of dollars, and they're making decisions that affect thousands of people's lives. They feel very like they're trying to control everything, because they're making all these stressful decisions and such. And what's one very popular amongst that kind of demographic of men is going to a dominatrix and letting them dominate them. And the reason that is because they want the feeling of being out of control, somebody else making the decision, somebody else kind of dominating them and being surrendered to them, or them being surrendered, because the feeling of surrender is very freeing. So these types of practices can all essentially be spiritualized. I mean, there's quality of spiritual activity. Let's say there's, you know, higher forms of spiritual activity, but anything and everything actually can be spiritualized through bringing consciousness or intention into it. And, you know, I mean, I've practiced, like myself, you know, we've, you know, tied each other up, and, you know, we've done the little feather things and the whip things and all that stuff. So, you know, I get it. And there is pleasure there, and there's intimacy there. So I highly encourage that you're just doing it with a level of consciousness, and the breath work will bring you into such a state that you may, again, it would be interesting. I don't want to project what should happen or shouldn't happen, so I'm trying to choose how I'm saying this very consciously. But ultimately, bring consciousness there, and things are always better on all levels of existence. And that's always a principle that's true and can be found in any sphere of activity or life. Sam says, I'm so happy you answered. Thank you so much, both of you. I asked because I found it difficult to incorporate the practices while having a rough sex. Me and my partner use the tool of BDSM as a way to increase our intimacy. True, I agree to the point of spirituality. Awesome, man. Well, all love to you and your partner, and we always wish you the best in all your life and all your endeavors. And, you know, just continue, bring these practices into your life, and everything will increase for you, because spiritual energy is expansive energy. So anything that spiritualizes expands. Material energy is contractive energy, right? So it's like, matter is like solid. It's like, it's matter, right? It's whatever, right? It's dead, right? Essentially, right? It's only enlivened by spirituality, right? The energy in it. So as you incorporate these practices and these breathing techniques into that play, you'll recognize that you will probably derive, yes, more physical pleasure, but I bet you, my guess anyways, and I'd love to hear from you, is if you derive even more emotional, mental, and dare I say even spiritual realization within that. All my conservative people are freaking right now.
They're going to just cut that section of you talking about whips and be like, see?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Anyways, all right, man. So there's another episode of our Semen Retention Nation. Again, we've changed the time to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you guys, till a week, ask questions, stuff. If am I coming through and work with myself and aside of our training, join our battalions, and then please reach out to me, book a time, let's connect, let's jump on a call. I'd love to connect with you. I'm honored to serve you. General, you got any final words before we wrap up?
No, it's just, really good conversation. I'm just really getting into the belly breathing more, even though I did it when I first joined the course. Doing it the second time around, it's going deeper into it, really realizing they seem so simple, some of these initial practices, but to get those foundations really good enhances the rest. So I'm really going to try and every day just get deeper on my breathing and and get more expert at that. So I'm grateful to be going over it again.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm always learning too. It's part of being a leader. It's part of being a man, right? Is always being a student. Always being a student, constantly improving. It's part of my daily affirmations that I say to myself is I'm constantly improving, always growing. It's this idea that we're all students of life and we're all getting better. And sometimes we get the honor to play the role of teacher and to some people. But remember that a teacher is also a student, and a student is a teacher, and we're all here just learning and teaching from each other. So I want to thank you guys so much. We're honored, as always, to join you every single week on these live programs. I'm looking forward to jumping on a call with those guys who take action on that. And there's the free sexualization guide. So you can go do that as well. It's a free program that you could take to get you started on your journey of mastering your sexual energy. All right, guys, we'll see you guys next week. Soldiers.
Routine.
Soldiers retain. Real strong men are self-controlled, their info is plain. If you don't know, feel that energy flow right into your brain. Your whole game will change. Soldiers retain. Soldiers